All right. Well, good evening, San Bernardino. I am happy to be with you again. And tonight we are going to talk about a very important topic in our city, which is the current state of the homelessness emergency that we are facing. So I will give us a couple minutes or so to allow for the notifications to go out that we are live. I will post a recording of this to Instagram, Nextdoor, and YouTube. So please, I hope that, if you like this and it's good information, that you will share it, because this is really an important topic. Before I get started, I won't jump into it because, like I said, we'll make sure that everybody can get on. I'm seeing the notifications go out. So I'm going to so if I see your comments, I can talk to you. There we go. Okay. Just a real recap for the week. We had a council meeting last night. For those of you that weren't there, it was a really good turnout, a lot of new faces and concerns that are going on in the city. I really am happy to see a lot of people starting to come forward and be first-time speakers in front of the mayor and council. Very exciting. Our Mayor Helen Tran presided over her first full regular meeting and did a really good job. I think that just the dynamic alone of how people interact with each other has changed. I've even noticed just in my own last month of addressing the council, I feel less agitated staring forward, because John Valdivia really had a lot of issues in the city that he caused, and so I feel even the tone, the vibe is very different, and it's exciting. We will remain vigilant. We will make sure that we hold people accountable, but I am always hopeful when I'm given hope. So that's where I am with the current state of stuff going on at the current council meeting. So, okay, here we go. We're going to jump in. So tonight's topic is the current state of homelessness, the emergency in the city of San Bernardino. There has never been, in my 4 years of actively going to public meetings, community meetings, private meetings, online conversations, where the topic of homelessness has not come up. It is something that affects every single one of us every single day. And as the political climate, as the state of the issue starts to grow and fester, let's be honest, in its context of what it's doing, it has really become a community burden, and in a lot of different ways. And the reactions, the frustration is just at this boiling point. And what I want to do tonight is talk about it, because we have some stuff coming up. I want to look at where we've been, where we are, and what we're doing collectively as a community tonight, so that when we do ultimately come to declaring a state of emergency, I want us to be able to manage expectations. I think one key issue is that a lot of times we believe that nothing is happening, but the truth is that government takes time. Nobody likes to hear that, right? Everybody hates that. But if we can manage our expectations through this, if we can understand the root causes, where we are and what we're doing, I'm sure that we as a community can really effectuate change in no matter what space we're going to be in, no matter what role we're going to play in this upcoming declaration. So let's check it out. So where are we currently in the numbers? All the information I'm going to share with you tonight are public documents. This is directly from the County of San Bernardino's point in time count. I want to note that there was not a point in time count for 2021 due to the pandemic. So in 2018, we had a total of 646 homeless. That included 131 who were in shelters, 176 that were in transitional housing, and then 333 people who were completely unsheltered. 2019, sheltered went down. The transitional housing went down. And as we see, people who did not have a place to go grew, over doubled. The total went up to 890 in 2019. In 2020, 183 people were sheltered. That was good. The only transitional was 50. And then the unsheltered grew to 823, giving us a total of 1,056 homeless. Now, I want to be clear that this is a rough estimate, a very rough estimate of where we're at, because not everybody is always counted. These are the numbers that you can get from the point in time count. In 2022, we see that the number of sheltered and housed went up, but that we again rose in unsheltered to 992, with a total of 1,350 homeless in our city. So going up over 300 within a 2-year span. Super problematic. But this is why, people are talking about, oh, who cares about the point in time count? One, it's very important to know what's going on and what is happening. The other important conversation is who is out there. And if we are as accurate as possible, when we declare our state of emergency, we're going to know how much aid we truly need. So counting people is valuable to bring in the dollars to solve the problem that people constantly talk about. So this is why, I've been out for the last 3 years doing this point in time count, because I've been asking the city to declare a state of emergency. That's the number one. If you just can't do anything else, maybe you can and try and come out. And plus, here's the other thing. Homelessness, and we'll get to the reasons for it, but talking to people is very different than making assumptions. Seeing 1 or 2 homeless, having a bad interaction. I think when we look at homelessness in general, your personal interactions dictate your mental influence on what homelessness is in the city. And who homeless are. If you've ever, had a bad altercation, you're set. So talking to people, seeing their stories, seeing what's going on, really, really valuable. I'm just going to leave it there because we'll get into other stuff. So this is where we are as a city. Where are we in relation to the county? So as we know, we are the largest city in the county of San Bernardino. And this is their point in time count collectively for all of the cities and outlying areas. In 2018, they had a total of 2,118 unhoused or sheltered and unsheltered. That represents, of our numbers, the 646 you saw last time, that's 30% of that total population resides in our city. Let me make sure I move over. So in 2019, it rose to 34%. They went up over 500, and that represents 34% of that population a year later. In 2020, we were pretty leveled out. We still retain 34% of the total homeless population. And then in 2022, we went to 40% of the total population of homeless from the count. So our city is bearing a large brunt, the majority, I would say, in comparison, 40% of the homelessness issue and problem that is happening. So this is our current standing. If you want to know, you can Google point in time count for the county, and each of these tables will come up for you depending on the year that you choose. But it is an overwhelming issue. And you may be asking, like, hey, why then? Are these numbers continuing to go up? How come, we're not doing anything? Because that's matter of fact, we're not. Homelessness is a super multifaceted issue. And I pulled something from 2019, which I thought would be a great representation of just understanding where we're at. So this is California. This is the basis of the California homeless population. So there's 151,000 people are experiencing homelessness. 27% of the total homeless population in the nation. So 27% of all homeless people in our country live in California. A 16% increase in California's homelessness population between 2018 and 2019. That's a big jump. And 72% of California's homeless population is unsheltered, which means they are living outside. These are the people that you see on the daily. 21% increase in the unsheltered population between 2018 and 2019. 65% of California's homeless population is male. And 23% of California's homeless population is severely mentally ill. 17% of the California's homeless population is a chronic substance abuse disorder or suffers from that. 15% of California's homeless population includes families with children. 8% of the population is unaccompanied youth under 24. Between 2018 and 19, Los Angeles's population increased by 13%. The greatest concentration for homelessness is in Los Angeles. They have 37%. And overall, 27% of California's homeless population is chronically homeless, which means it's continual. Now, what are some contributing factors besides mental illness and income? Housing has become scarcer. People don't have places to live, availability, affordability, mental health centers, access to facilities, access to resources, economic, drivers for jobs, a good industry, being able to, this is a part of this is according to the National Alliance to End Homelessness, the rate of inflation versus the rate of income has been disproportionate for decades. So these are the reasons that people have identified that are so key to how we need to address things. So let me answer, sorry, I saw a question. When the city declares a state of emergency, is this the same as the governor declaring the state of emergency? No, this is a different, very localized state of emergency. Really good question, Anna. Really good question. And we will talk about the difference. So right now, currently, we're going to look at what the city has been using to address homelessness. And in going through all of the documents, it truly is the Community Development Block Grant funding and Emergency Solution Grant. And we talk about the nonprofits who receive funding from our city. These are the grant fundings. Or if you're a nonprofit and this is your area, you have until January 23rd to get your application in to receive this type of funding. Now, what this is it comes from the federal government, because the City of San Bernardino is an entitlement jurisdiction. So it comes directly, as you guys can see, from HUD. And these dollars, 3.1 million, and then 278,000, roughly estimate, come to our city for us to utilize for specific purposes. What the CDBG, which is how we shorten it to the Community Development Block Grant, it can fund community projects and economic development and housing, fair housing, to make sure that this is going towards the right population. The funding has to meet one of the following. So there's a list, right here, but at least one of this criteria have to be met. Either it has to be principally benefit low and moderate income persons, which means the majority of our city. It can eliminate slums blight. So when we talk about all these blighted areas in our city, recognize that we have $3.1 million available to be able to allocate towards eliminating blight. It needs to meet an urgent need. I don't know if you are like me, but we have a lot of urgent needs. I think we can meet the criteria for that. The types of projects and programs which may be considered for funding are subject to the national objectives compliances, so capital improvement activities, construction and rehabilitation of publicly owned facilities, improvements to public and private buildings to make them accessible to people with disabilities. That's big. I mean, we talk about wanting to make sure that everybody has, an equitable stance. This is it. We can do infrastructure improvements. So the sidewalks where people can't take their wheelchairs down, street damages like we're seeing now, sewer and water systems, they're talking about a whole new system up in the 5th Ward. These funds are available, and it is really important for us to make sure that they're being utilized. One of the biggest problems that I have seen over the course of time is that sometimes these funds need to be shovel ready. You have to have projects on the books and prepared so that you can utilize HUD dollars. You can utilize this. It can't just be like, oh, because these, time expires. It can't be like, oh, I want to do this in 5 years from now. Can you hold off on funding? Every year we have to be moving forward. So this is historically what we have been using in our midst, along with the Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG. So like I said, the city is accepting applicants, and you guys can find this info on grantinfo.gov. So the purpose of the Emergency Solution Grants is to assist families and individuals right now, and to help them get back into permanent housing. So whenever we see like if there's a fire, or one of the main components of this block grant and ESG is going to help relocate people from 340. I believe there's another complex that is about to be evicted. So the Emergency Solutions Grant, this is it. It also includes street outreach, emergency shelters, homelessness prevention. People liken it to the voucher program, like if you can get but it's temporary. And that's the thing about it's to be able to mitigate between one permanent home to another permanent home. It's not a sustainable program, and it's only funded at $200 and some thousand. So be aware of that. We could eat up the whole amount or just the last two categories. What is to guarantee any money will go to homeless? Well, Scott, great question. These dollars require oversight. They require reporting, because if you misuse HUD funds, you can become ineligible for HUD funding. So one thing, and I really appreciate Sandra Ibarra for this, Councilwoman Sandra Ibarra, is she constantly asks. So we have a group of nonprofits in our city, and being able to receive money from this city, there has been a lot of talk that there is very minimal reporting, there is very minimal oversight, that she's called, and I heard her called many times, for the city to provide the reporting of the numbers. Like, what are you doing with this money? Who have you helped? How many? How long? So Scott, that is a very important component to making sure that this is all accounted for, because what is the purpose? And if we're not going to do what's right, why do it? So great question. Let's see. It's good to see you caring about the city, ongoing problems. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the helm. Oh, thank you. Yeah, you know what? San Bernardino can really become an all-American city again. I believe that, only because I've seen the criteria, and It's not that hard. So I think we could definitely shimmy our way back up that stick and bring some pride to our city. So absolutely. Okay, so that's historically. This is what we've been historically. So what are we doing currently? What's happening and in the mix? So if you were at the December 7th meeting, you saw that the city or the council had allocated upwards of $21 million for funding towards homelessness. And these are a lot of this has to do with the ARPA funds, which are the American Rescue Plan Act. And it is really to build this navigation center, a place that localizes the homeless community. Right now, this is a 200-bed, 100 intern housing units and communal space, offices, and on-set supportive services. So, and I'm just, this information, if you want to look at it in more in depth, it's in the agenda. This is where I got it. But a full, in the first phase, 100 units. In the second phase, a total of 200 units to be built, and this navigation center. They also want to look at potential funding outside of ARPA funds at, like Scott, you mentioned, so using the CDBG block grant for this type of funding, using ESG funding, Project Home Key, which is another great source, more Home American Rescue Plan program. So there are other types of funding that can help us continue on with this type of phase out building and bringing people into a living space, which is vital, because here's the biggest deal that we talk about. A lot of people are like, why can't the homeless be moved? Why are they allowed? If you do not have a place, a bed to put someone in at night, you cannot kick them out of a public space, because being homeless is not a crime, regardless of you're they're causing crime. I get it, but in general, being a person who is without a structure to live in doesn't make you a criminal. And because we pay as taxpayers and we have public spaces, you cannot kick us out of public spaces. And the sidewalk is this one particular area of which is the most open public space. So as long as they're there, you have to go through the eviction process. Is very interesting. So this is why we have to build housing, and depending on what type of housing. So transitional, affordable, which I know some people want to talk about affordable housing. Oh my God, poor people. I just need you guys to understand, if you're not making $130,000 a year now, you're poor. That's the average. The cost of living is ridiculous. And I want you to think, rethink what affordable housing is really workforce housing. If you are in the workforce, if you earn a paycheck, that this is the type of home you will be able to afford. But it gets a negative connotation. It's really workforce housing that people who have jobs will be able to afford somewhere to live. So super exciting. Okay, additionally, with this navigation center, there's going to be an expansion of current services provided by nonprofits, but I really want to make sure that we have an understanding about what the city currently does not have. And I put this there because at the very top, because it's important, the city does not have a homeless outreach team. This is what's being developed currently in the capacity. We don't have this. So the people are like, oh, well, Public Works, or oh, the police department. That is not a homeless task. Like that's not it. That's Public Works and that's a police station who have been utilized and over, I think, unfairly put in these positions to handle the homeless crisis, because until now, we really haven't addressed this. And I'm saying we as in, like, I hope this is going to be a part of the thing, is specialized people have to do specialized work. The Public Works Department deals with public works. Police officers deal with public safety. This division of homelessness needs to be met with homeless professionals, people who deal with mental health, people who deal with housing, people who deal with nonprofits, everything that goes in, transitional housing, permanent supportive services. We're looking at the churches, sober living, every aspect of human services is going in this direction. And what's really good about this is it takes the burden off of those who are not equipped to even handle it, but have been. So the showers and laundry, I also know that the Sandals Church is creating a youth center where people will, kids will be able to come and wash their clothes. And so there's a lot going on. The nonprofits are expanding, and this is going to be great because they're going to be able to help the nonprofits out with this. So, a lot of money. I mean, we're looking at $20,150,000 investment over this cycle. So 12 million, 12.4 million directly for this navigation center. And that's awesome. I really think that we don't have the bandwidth anymore to say no. Like, homelessness isn't going anywhere. So this is what we are doing today. Okay, what are they going to do next? Now, I want us all to remember when Councilwoman Kimberly Calvin came on, and one of her very first, I want to say April or May of her first year, she asked for a workshop to be held and wanted a roundtable of all the players, nonprofits, county, elected officials, to come and sit in this city and talk about what we were going to do for homelessness. It was one of her first things. The council voted on it. It hasn't been back in years. Councilwoman Sandra Ibarra has been a huge proponent of tiny homes and looking at the prospect of tiny home villages and what that would mean. That has never come back. Now, on November 16th of last year, Councilman Ben Reynoso brought back requested for a future meeting to declare homelessness a state of emergency. My understanding is that this is going to come back February 1st. So the council acted in November. Council members have been speaking about this for years. And, well, let me be clear. A select few of our council members have actually been talking about this for years, but the council collectively has never moved forward until November. And now I believe February 1st, this will be agendized. Fabulous. Very awesome. Been asking for it for 4 years. But what does that mean? What does it mean to declare a state of emergency on homelessness? Well, in the short version, it means that now the city of San Bernardino will have to address homelessness because they said it's an emergency. And it will open up the city to federal, state, and shared resources. So I'm going to throw everybody in there, but funding and just a very general sense. This is all, from other sites. The public, what really from the federal side of things, it's the Public Health and Service Act. So as we said before, we want to be very, very specific with how we look at homelessness. It is a public health emergency. It is dealing with the public and health in many different capacities. And because we're going to look at it that way, that means that the Federal Department of Health and Human Services will help us, that there will be an allocation of funding, that we will be able to look at the state and piggyback off of, because Governor Newsom has also made this a priority in the state's budget. We will now open ourselves up to funding. And the county of San Bernardino, who has the Department of Behavioral Health, will also become a partner with us. And that is really exciting. That is going to allow us to have facilities for addiction and mental health and youth and workforce development. A lot of things that our city doesn't do, we're now going to be able to. I see a question. Will there be a count of homeless with mental illness, drug issues, families that are homeless? We need more housing. So yes, Virginia, when people go out on the point in time count, they're on your phone, what you do is when you interact with someone, you give a survey. And if you can, because I mean, you are dealing with some people who have mental illness, and you're able to ask them their questions and get their answers. How long have you been homeless? Where were you originally homeless? How many of you are homeless together? Are you suffering from a mental illness, a physical ailment? So the data is very thorough. And you know, the truth is a lot of people, they'll tell you their stories, and they'll tell you, well, you know, I was released from a facility, I'm a felon, I can't go anywhere. I was very surprised at how many homeless people work and live in their cars because they can't afford housing. So yes, there is a very, very good way to collect all of that information and find out who's who and who's doing what. So great question. Okay, here we go. Now, here's the thing about the homeless state of emergency. This is a big deal. It's a lot. And according to the National Alliance, there's a lot to consider. And so we have to, and I hope, you may not like the way this is going to sound, but I am not 100% behind just declaring homelessness a state of emergency on the 1st, because this city has no plan to address homelessness. So you're going to declare something an emergency without a plan on how to address this emergency. And funding is going to be predicated on your plan. So I, in this moment, believe any declaration, even though I've called for it, right? I'm like, hey, you need to declare this. But in the whole totality of declaration should be a plan. Here's what we're going to do with this state of emergency. And what the Homeless Alliance or the Alliance to End Homelessness has said is, you know, you want to be clear. What is the goal? What is going to be immediate? And this is me. What is the immediate, short-term, and long-term goal with this state of emergency? And we should be able to articulate that. We should know, and I'm making this up, it's just my own examples. Immediately, I want to be able to provide emergency shelters through ESG grant funding. Great. Okay. What's your 5 year, well, and we'll go short term in terms of government. What's your 2-year goal? My goal is to expand upon the navigation center and be able to provide at least 250 more beds. All right. What's your long-term goal? What's your 10-year goal? I want to make sure that we have built a sufficient amount of at least 800 units of affordable housing. So, and like I said, these are just totally made up numbers. That's where I believe the city needs to be when declaring their state of emergency. They need to understand the barriers. What's going to stop? anything. Like what are we anticipating? And let's talk about when we had the police department working, in helping with homelessness, and the ACLU came in and said, if you don't get the police department off of homelessness, we're going to sue you. Well, it's a barrier preventing action on homelessness and how a emergency declaration. So if there's a barrier, which I'm going to name a barrier, which would be capacity, personnel to actually address, that's a barrier. So a state of emergency to solve that would be to hire a homeless division in our city, an actual dedicated team. And then who are our key partners and our stakeholders who will need to be involved in this? And we need to outline that. Who is that? We say the county in general, but who is it in the county? And what nonprofits? And what roles will they be able to play? And how will they facilitate the needs that come out of this declaration? That's how I perceive this. And then what are the legal issues locally? I mean, are there any pending cases? Are there any types of rulings that have already happened that will impact anything that we want to do? And then ask, how, if at all, could an emergency declaration be used to address legal barriers? So if like this, like waiving zoning and procurement rules, is there a way for us to streamline a process and be able to meet legal obligations, or to be able to fight against any legal barriers? Really good. I'm just assuming these are good questions and things that we should know. And what are the gaps? What is it if we're trying to get from point A to point C, but we don't know what B is? Then we're going to get all geometry, right? How are we getting there? I'm going to give you the perfect example of what this means when I think about this. Tearing down the Mount Vernon Street Bridge. Okay. Side A and side C have been disconnected by this very large missing component, B, the bridge. Because this one piece of infrastructure no longer exists, there's a complete disconnect between the north and south side of the west side. Okay. So take that example, if you can, and think about what gaps currently exist and how are we going to meet these measurable results if we don't know what's missing. So you don't know what you don't know. So that I think that's great. And then how can this emergency declaration be used to address urgent needs, as well as align with the long-term goals to end homelessness? Super big, right? Is it just an immediate cause? How do we get from immediate goals to long-term goals? And then what level of local control in terms of taking action on homelessness? Who's in charge? How much are we going to want to allow our funds to be dispersed? How I don't know, how far out of the loop are we willing to get? How much control do we want to have? Big questions. And in my purview, if I can't answer these and have this in a great layout, I don't want to declare anything. So that's where I am on that. But this is what we should consider. The other thing that is the long-term goal. Like, shelters are great to get people off the street, but housing is where people need to live. And understanding that taking people off the street and putting them in a home is not a successful model when they are suffering from mental illness, when they are suffering from addiction, when they have no job sustainability to continue to pay the rent, when they are running away and life it's still not there for them in a way that makes them successful. Like, because we did this housing first model, give them a house and everything will be fine. Well, how do you pay for the lights? How do you pay for the mortgage? So the biggest focus in creating an emergency document is that you eventually want to get out of the emergency. We want to be able to say, hopefully in 5 or 10 years from now, hey, homelessness is no longer an emergency in the city of San Bernardino. We have sufficiently met our goals, our long-term sustainability model. Everything's about sustainability. How do you sustain this model? Let's see, Brian. Brian says, housing the homeless has been a failure so far in many cities that have tried this. Yeah, because without the services, great, Brian, without the services, the wraparound services that are needed to bring people back into society. I mean, think about that. We're taking people who have been on the streets, who have been in probably some of the situations we don't even want to think about, and trying to reintroduce them just cold. Just like, hey, it's like telling someone, hey, just stop, hey, alcoholic, stop drinking. It's not successful. And I think we should want to be successful. This state of emergency really could make us a model city of how to address such a big problem. Okay, my final thoughts. It's a lot. It's a lot, but I hope this was at least informational for you guys, and you have a little more insight to it. I fully believe that the government has failed us, that we are at this point of emergency because nobody wanted to take action when the light was yellow. Now here we are at this moment where we've quadrupled the size, and every year homelessness is growing, and knowing that we know everything that causes it. Government absolutely knows addiction, mental illness, jobs, housing, education, generational trauma, everything. They know the key, and yet they refuse to address any of these answers for the people, right? We pay our taxes and we get like nothing in return. And those who are falling through the cracks have gotten very wide to where people who are working, let's be very honest, because our city is very different than other cities. We create homelessness in our city. There is a reason why our emergency shelter grants are being used to house people who were under a slumlord in the downtown. We have another slumlord who just bought an apartment complex, and they're evicting people. We are creating this problem. And I know people, I said this to the council last night, I know people like to say, everybody here is being dropped off. They're dropped off. No, they are being pushed out of their homes in our city. Be honest with that. We're creating the problem. And I say we as a body of elected officials, I'm not, but I'm just saying we as in those who know what's going on here, we do it to ourselves. And it bothers me that we don't, if we're not going to take our portion of the accountability, how are we going to really effectuate the change that we need to see if we're not going to invest into code enforcement and make sure that people are not living in conditions that they will be red tagged in and put on the streets? I'm sorry, I'm just seeing a bunch of comments. Let's see, Russell. Next door in Riverside, Path of Life Ministries has some successful data. We should learn how to duplicate the model or contract with them. Yeah. Homelessness in Riverside is getting bad. Yeah, there are a lot. Like, and this is the thing, there are a lot of really good, models, really good successful playbooks. We don't have to recreate the wheel, which San Bernardino likes to do, right? We like to pretend like we're the only ones facing this. This is a nationwide epidemic. And we need to make sure that we understand the part we play. We need to be able to hold other cities accountable for treating humans awfully. The idea that anybody thinks from any city, it's okay to put someone on a bus or give someone a ticket and drop them off in San Bernardino, drop them off in LA, the high desert. I've seen it. And treat people like that who are suffering like, hey, you suck. Like, you just suck. You suck as a city. You suck as a human. Like, you know, the idea that I just followed orders, that mentality, we killed that in the Second World War. We're not going through that. And so we need to be accountable. We do. And I also want to see, especially because we know we're dealing with a lot of mental illness, I'd like to see Laura's Law adopted by the County of San Bernardino so that our city can move forward with creating outpatient and inpatient treatment centers in our city for those who are suffering addiction. And this will allow us to really monitor and provide the necessary treatments for these people. Because how unfair is it to continue to have someone who is suffering hallucinations, PTSD, and let's not forget that veterans are on our streets. People who fought for this country and gave everything are now suffering, and we have Loma Linda Veterans Center 7 miles away. And what are we doing? What partnerships have we created? None. So I really want to see that happen here. I also want us to be realistic. We have to be realistic. When our council declares this, if they declare it on the 1st, homelessness isn't going to disappear overnight. That's not how this works. I know some people wish they would wake up and all the homeless were gone. That is not going to happen. We have to manage our expectations of this. And this is why I believe it is so vital to have a timeline. I think the mayor and the council need to be able to tell the citizens where we are, how far we're moving, because if anybody's watching the downtown or any other project, where are we and what are we doing? And that becomes the narrative. So I want realistic expectations, and I want realistic goals, and I want realistic timelines. And then the last thing of my final thoughts, I get that we're frustrated. I'm frustrated. I don't like what I see in my community. I don't like the tents everywhere. It's very hard to watch the mentally ill, violence, defecating on the streets and the sidewalks, and and my children. It sucks, and I don't know anybody who's okay with it that lives here. I get that people are some are very bleeding hearts and are the fighters for that community. Cool. That's you. It's frustrating to live here and see that. But you and your neighbors, and we're not the enemy of this. And we tend to believe that you should go do this if you don't like what I say, and you should, like, hey, look, we're all trying to solve this problem. We don't have the power that our elected officials do. And I watch people go out church services, and I watch individuals go out to the parks and they make meals and they feed people. There's all the time donations and drives to help people. And, community members have taught that there are children, our own children from our own schools, living in cars on our streets. Like, to just treat people like garbage doesn't do it for me. So let's be fair to those of us that are trying every day. It sucks because sometimes it feels like we're the bad guys for being victimized by a broken system, because we are paying for things, and we don't want someone stealing things out of our yards. And we shouldn't have to just accept that there's people who have less, so we should have to make sure that we don't have anything nice that they want. That's not the world I want to live in. So I want to be a part of the solution, and my part, so you all know, is to hold our elected officials accountable. However you want to play your part, do you, boo. I'm good with that, but let's stop trying to fight each other for a solution that we can't take upon ourselves on how to just remove homeless people out of our city. So let me make sure I didn't miss any. let's see, San Bernardino County Workforce Development Board has a program funding that is directly placing homeless citizens to employment with incentives. That's awesome. Oh yeah, Operation New Hope, Youth Opportunity Center is working with the San Bernardino Water Department to refer. So what I do want to mention Operation New Hope. So this is just an amazing nonprofit, and that's why I say, like, we have some really great community partners, and when we talk about success models, being able to see results, not someone who's just, like, oh, I heard there's a nonprofit that does X, Y, and Z. Operation New Hope really does work in our community, and it is fantastic. And the way that kids, and I've been there, so I'm going to brag on it, seeing the way that that our kids in our city are treated there, and given hope and a new pathway when the traditional stuff isn't working, when there's more problems at home, and feeling like there is no hope. They really do provide that, and those are the nonprofits that I want to make sure, along with Kim Carter and Making Hope Happen Foundation and the other really successful drivers, that they're included in this plan, because there's a lot of money coming, and so no one should be axed out or pushed out or politicized, because we have really great models here. And what I love about Russell is here he is talking about another organization besides his own out in Riverside. So that's really what it comes down to, is a type of community that we have built up here, because there are people doing amazing things every single day, which is why I say, let's be sensible and don't try and fight each other, because everybody can get in where you fit in. And I just appreciate you guys down there so much. Anna, let's see, myself and my siblings have conservatorship of him. I want to talk about this. I really, really want to talk about families who have loved ones, because we hear this conversation a lot. And I met a woman when I was campaigning whose sister is bipolar. And when they can get her on her meds for a while, she does great. She does really, really well. But as people who know others with mental illness, once they start feeling well, sometimes they just stop taking the meds, or they run out, they stop seeing the doctor, and they go down. And the family has just been like, hey, we can't do that. We have other children, we have grandchildren. We can't keep putting ourselves, because it becomes very violent and erratic behavior. And the sister, they only know where the sister is when she gets arrested, and they get called to bail her out. What I would love to see is a support service for these types of families who need the additional caregiving for the adult services, who need to be able to, if possible, create a family plan for reunification, because everybody is somebody's family, and we really forget that. People they have somewhere to go, you guys should be responsible. Well, hey, you know what, like, it's so much more than that. If anybody's ever dealt with mental illness and that type of care and concern, I'm just going to give you one last story, because this is what caught me about mental illness. I had a friend years ago when I was in college, and she would do really well. I didn't know what was happening, but she would do really well and come to class, everything would be great, she'd be very high, and then she would disappear. And one day I just saw her in the courtyard, and I was like, hey, like, where have you been? What's going on? And she was just telling me, like, she had just gotten out of a facility. She has schizophrenia. And I was like, but like scared, right? Because who knows what that is when you're, 18, 19. And she was telling me that her biggest fear in life is that I'm just another one of the figments of her imagination that I made up in her mind. And I was like, wow, like, maybe I am an imaginary friend. And that would be like super weird. But the idea that someone is sitting there trying to identify what is real and what is not, and then treating them like they are less than a human and don't deserve the kindness and consideration in this world. And she had a great family who really was always who, you know, thank God, who were able to reel her in when these episodes would happen. That's just it. You know, thank God that in my life that I wasn't born with something that debilitates me that way. But if I was, would I want someone to shove a burger in my face and sit me on a bus and ship me off to the next city? No, I would not. Would I want someone to give me drugs or cigarettes or alcohol to numb me enough to get on a bus and ship me off to somewhere else? No, I would not. And I would not want anybody to do that to my family. So that's what I got for you. No more. Okay. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you always watching and moving forward. And hey, we are all we have. So let's do this together, and whatever solutions we can find. You've got, you know, really great people in this community, and that's why I show up. So thank you guys. Have a super great night, and God bless.